Welcome, everyone, to the C Suite Sherpa Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Marshall, where we focus a spotlight on great resources for the C Suite. And speaking of great resources, we've got Mark Gambale with Close with One. So, Mark, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Brian. It's great to be here in front of you and your audience.
Great to have you. So, Mark, tell us about Close with One and who you work with and what you do.
Well, even though I'm a sales coach, I'm not a salesperson. I started off as a market analyst at Gartner because I really liked the idea of solving people's problems and creating a message and a story that matched the future of where things were going. And when I saw a job at Gartner, I decided, well, you know what? I'll apply for this, even though it says MBA candidates only. And I realized you don't really get to where you want to go by looking at the no and realizing the no is permanent. It's not a no, but it's a how. So Close with One helps people get that right message, whether it's an email or it's a LinkedIn, that all of a sudden draws people in and gets you excited about you. Because I needed to get messages out, I worked with Apple and they responded with, wow, Mark is really listening and he's curious and creative. Messaging today isn't curious and creative. And when you get on sales calls, often people show up so needy that the prospect starts to run the other way. And I teach people how to be relatable in the first calls. By the end of that call, people say, wow, I like that person. I trust that person. I'll join a second call with them.
I'm glad you explained that because it would easily put you in the sales training category. And what you talked about was messaging, which is really kind of a marketing flavor to it. So do you help people with closing business, sales techniques, or is it really more of a marketing flavor?
Well, it comes down to where is somebody? Is it that their messaging just isn't resonating and they're not getting enough people on the calls? A lot of times that's the case. It comes into like the marketing play of, well, what are you saying to people? And showing them how what they're saying is not connecting with the audience. So I might start off there. Other times people say, well, I have enough calls. I'll do 5, 10, 15 calls a week or a month. And they feel like, wow, I'm only closing 0 of those. How can I get better at closing those? So that's when the closing coaching comes in. Sometimes it's both that people need.
I talk to a lot of business owners who are the primary salesperson for their business, and they don't pay attention to the fact that you have to have a great message. It's got to connect with people where they're at. It's got to be interesting, engaging. Then there's a process they have to go through to help them decide whether they want to move forward, which is really sales. It's about having influence, but it's not about pressuring someone to do something they don't want to do. And that's, we're kind of up against that. All the salespeople before us have kind of laid a foundation, which is not good. And there's a pattern that they fall into, and people know how to defend themselves. So who are the kinds of clients you're working with? Is it small business owners or is it sales teams? Give me a sense of what an ideal prospect looks like for you.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I had a guy that invited me to a call today by seeing my email outreach. He said, I got to talk to you. Close with One as a concept is something that hasn't worked. This one guy had 6 reps on his team, and across 6 months, 0 closed. He realized he'd given them plenty of runway and time to use the systems and tools. And he ended up saying, Mark, I've let them all go. I want you to train these 2 other people on my team plus me and give me the right message and story to start the process over. So it can be a founder that needs to get their revenue up or someone that has a team of people that they're just not performing. This works across large size companies, medium and small, because I don't know who doesn't want more revenue or a higher close rate.
So what are some of the challenges? In my opinion, it's getting harder to get in front of people. It's getting harder to get them to choose you. With the advent of COVID, social distancing and the isolation, it's been easier for people to not really engage. When you talk about sales, marketing, and getting in front of people, what is the biggest challenge? Is it the fact that we're remote? Or is there something else you're seeing out there that you're helping people solve?
It comes down to presence. If I'm trying to pitch you and close you on something and I'm leaning in and I'm showing you my slides, all of a sudden you're bombarding the other person and you're not giving a chance to breathe, So the process at the moment is very intensive and very needy. It used to be that when we met face to face, there was a chance for a conversation. But Zoom creates this imbalance where it's all the sales reps saying, I need. And the prospect doesn't get a chance to say, thank you for coming in today. Here's kind of why we brought you in. That piece is out of order. I teach people that it's best to give the other person a microphone, let them explain their story rather than, well, I think I'm going to give you everything I possibly can. Hopefully there's a hook in there.
I agree. One of the biggest challenges that we've gotten away from building relationships. You and I have met a few times before I invited you to be on the podcast, and appreciate you being here. And I think we've developed a pretty good rapport, a pretty good relationship. I really like you. I trust you, but that takes time. A lot of people, for whatever reason, skip that part and get right to, I've got something, you're going to want it. Do you want to sign up on Monday or Wednesday? And the price goes up on Friday if you don't. That doesn't work. People don't fall for that anymore. But I see a lot of people doing desperate behavior, and it's really not effective, and it's off-putting. How do you help people get the right mindset? They have to have the right message. They've got to make the right impression, but how do you help them with the desperation part, the part that helps keeps them pushing when they should be pulling back and listening?
I like to look at the style that people use when they are doing a pitch and just see, what are they like? And through that, I get a chance to observe and shine a light on the things they didn't know they were doing. The prospect sees it, but the person that's doing the pitch is going so hard and fast that they can't see what they're doing. And so by slowing down and giving the mic to the other person, you're able to observe and then listen and go, well, wait, you said your problem's over here? Oh, I had no idea your problem was over there. Tell me why. And then they get a chance to explain, like that person I spoke with this morning, our problem was we can't close and we can't get people on the phone. So their sales reps are kind of doing one of these things where nothing's happening.
Yeah.
And you're right, it's a mindset thing. You've probably heard of the marshmallow experiment or the cookie experiment, where in the beginning, the prize is on the table. And then the observer gets to walk out of the room, and then they see how the person that has the treat in front of them behaves. And the delayed satisfaction piece is so important, because when a sales rep talks first and owns the first 3 minutes, 5 minutes, or the entire conversation, the other person feels like, wow, you're taking too much. You're not letting me share my story. And I show people how they are on a call, and they appreciate it because no one else has ever told them and shown them the things that they don't want to see or they didn't know were happening on a call.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. So we have about a minute left, and then we're going to shift gears. Last question. What do you see in terms of the work that you're doing? How is the sales and marketing environment evolving? What do you see as maybe the biggest challenge in front of people that you help?
Biggest challenge seems to be everyone thinks that more is better. More emails, more automation, more busyness, like plugging into LinkedIn. Like, man, I didn't do enough yesterday on LinkedIn, so I'll do more today. Well, the more that you do actually deflects the opportunity that you want. And so the thing that I'm seeing is slowing down and really just engaging with people is a lot better. For instance, I'm doing these daily engaging videos where I just tell people a story and walk them through a situation. That's what people want. They want the realness of someone else. They don't want that big promise. It's 20% off today. I can onboard you tomorrow. It doesn't feel genuine.
People do business with people that they know, they like, and most importantly, they trust, right? We've all heard that. But I think we've gotten away from building trust with people. We've gotten away from letting them know we care about them. I was told once that people don't care about what you say until they know that you care. We go right into a pitch, and it's all about the words, and words are 7% of communication, the actual written word, right? So you and I could talk about this all day long. I would love to have you back and talk some more, maybe go a bit deeper, because there's a lot that could be talked about to help people. But let's shift gears. I want to do something a little bit fun called the lightning round. You've seen it before. You may have done it before. I'm going to ask you some quick questions. Whatever comes to mind. It's meant to be fun. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. All right, let's start off with something simple. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
All right, cats or dogs?
Dogs.
If you can only grab one item right before the zombie apocalypse breaks out, what would it be?
The pictures of my 4 kids plus my wife.
Awesome. What's your favorite quote or phrase that you think about often?
I think the biggest thing is really just be in the moment. And that's not a quote, but that's basically the present is being in the moment.
Yeah,
And that's the present.
good mantra, right? How about a movie or a streaming series that you would recommend?
The Matrix, all 3 or 4, it gives you a sense of a narrative all the way through. And that narrative is pretty powerful. If you step away from the action, the questions that they ask are so amazing, knowing that you've got a choice, an incredible power and control in that choice. Why have something in the way? Be the one that makes that choice and carries it forward.
Yeah, you and I both love the trilogy. You got to watch them one after another. Really gives you a great perspective. It's one of those things you can't just watch once. I've watched them a dozen times, still love them. So I agree with you. How about a book? Do you have a book that you recommend?
Well, it might sound a little unusual, and I am not a biblical scholar or pastor or anything like that. However, the single greatest sales pitch ever is the Sermon on the Mount. Regardless of where your faith walk is, read that Sermon on the Mount and pretend as if you are on the receiving end of that. What does it feel like to hear that? And imagine that you're the prospect.
Yeah.
Then imagine that you are speaking as if you were using the mindset that Jesus has when he speaks to the audience. You can't convert everyone, but you can be in a way that you're on the call and you are not using your strength to convince the other person. You're using your strength to serve the other person. He does it so well that I think it's the greatest sales pitch ever.
You're the first person to answer it that way. Jesus was a great influence. He's one of the most influential people in history. Sales is about influence. I'm going to go back and read that from that perspective. That's a good perspective. Thank you. Last 2 questions. Bucket list item that you've already accomplished.
Encouraging my children to see that they have the full ability to be an entrepreneur every day and every moment. And their purpose is to create a legacy any which way possible, but bigger than what I can do for other entrepreneurs. I want them to be able to carry that torch of the legacy.
And what's the biggest obstacle that you've ever had to overcome personally? And what's one lesson you took away from it?
Well, I at one point lost my best job ever, my house, my 4 kids, and I was down to negative territory. When that happened, I realized that I needed to basically look myself in the mirror and see, well, what's off with my heart? And I realized that the biggest thing missing is a genuine message from the heart. Mm. Through that journey, I realized whenever I talk to someone, I ask them what's most important to them in the beginning. And that's the close with one mindset. And when I was in front of an audience in Las Vegas and we were talking about AI, there were 20 other vendors out there. I realized, what's the genuine message that they want? What's that conversational piece? I was amazed. 33% of the audience raised their hands, jumped into my sales funnel, and became 1.67 million in 5 minutes and 100 leads that almost blew HubSpot apart. It's because I created a conversation.
Yeah.
And that conversation piece is what people want.
Vulnerability is a powerful tool that most leaders never embrace. It takes great courage to be vulnerable and speak the truth. We all put on these masks and pretend to have it all together. There's only been one perfect man who's walked this earth, and until he comes back, the rest of us are struggling and dealing with our imperfections. So appreciate that. That's a great lesson on leadership as well. If somebody's listening to this, they want to connect with you. What's the best way for somebody to get in touch with you?
It's to find me on LinkedIn or to go with my website, closewith1.com, and then see what other people are saying about me, because that's the real marker of what you want. If you like those stories and you like the feel of that, then it's obvious to you that you want to have a conversation. And I think that's the greatest part, is when people join and say, okay, I'm curious. I want to see how we could work together, whether you can help me out.
Yeah, that's great. Now, if you're listening, you didn't get all that, we're going to put it in the description at the bottom of this video. If you're watching this, check out the description. We'll have Mark's contact information, make it easy for you. Mark, like I said, could talk to you all day long, but we don't have that much time. So we're going to go ahead and end it here. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Brian. It sounds like you have an incredible community of entrepreneurs, founders, and people that can trust and refer each other. And that's actually one of the greatest things, is being able to say, do you have a guy for this? And being able to say, yeah, I got a guy for that.
Well, I appreciate you making it just a little bit better with your interview. So, Mark, have a good one. And thanks for being on the podcast. We'll see you soon.
See you, Brian.